But there is this line in the Bible that says, despise not the days of small beginnings. And I believe that should be the mantra of every budding YouTuber. You gotta have that engraved in your heart. You gotta have that plastered to your consciousness. So I started off this channel a little bit over a year ago, and I remember dropping my first video in March of 2024. I took a break. Anyways, within this time of taking a break and doing other stuff, I also had the opportunity to think a little bit about YouTube and how to get better results out of it. And I found what I believe would be the 4 pillars of success for anyone hoping to build a successful YouTube channel. And first, top on the list would be humility. You see, the YouTube journey can be a very, very humbling one. And so off the bat, you want to have an ego check and make sure you embrace humility. You see, you must ready yourself to be disappointed and maybe even ridiculed sometimes. Because as you start off, you're going to have very, very humbling results. Not like the algorithm is against you in any way, shape, or form. No. The algorithm works fine. It works perfect. But the thing is, you're just coming out of total oblivion. Nobody knows you, right? Nobody knows you. And I don't care how smart you may be. I don't care how much you believe in what you're saying. I don't care how authentic or intelligent or factual you may sound. You are just making an entry into the YouTube world, into the YouTube sphere. And so the way the algorithm works is that it's going to push your content to very, very limited numbers of people around the world to test and see how they react to your content. And if people react to your content in a good way, then they get to push it to a lot more people. But the thing is, at the very beginning, without any base, without any subscribers or people who've watched you in the past, you get very, very low impressions. And impression is just a technical word for the number of people to whom your content is exposed to. So in my case, for example, my very first video, which I spent about a month to do, because as you can imagine, it was my very first project and it was a long video. It was like 30 minutes long. And I was learning to do things for the very first time. I was learning to use the camera for the first time. I was learning to edit for the very first time. Plus, I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. So it definitely took me quite a while to make that first video, you see. And in my heart of hearts, because I believed so much in the quality of what I was putting out there, I felt like it was just going to blow up and, and, would go from there. But in the first 24 hours, in the very first day, it had an impression of 34. In other words, this video was only shown to 34 people amongst the approximately 2.5 billion people in the world who use YouTube. My content was only exposed to about 34 people around the world. So 34 impressions, about 10 views. And I just kept watching it myself, So, but the point is, see, it might sound a little bit harsh, but when you get to think of it very well, I think this is how YouTube gets to vet people. And that's one of the reasons why I believe that the platform is very clean. So, but imagine how humbling that first experience could have been for me. I was expecting thousands of views, but it was a few views. I think up to this day, that video has about 300 views. And that's a beautiful video. Anyways, you get the point. It can be very, very humbling. You know the passage in the Bible that says, I'm sorry for sounding a little bit religious today, even though I'm not that religious. But there is this line in the Bible that says, despise not the days of small beginnings. And I believe that should be the mantra of every budding YouTuber. You got to have that engraved in your heart. You got to have that plastered to your consciousness that the beginning could be a little bit challenging. Second on my list would be your drive and your passion and your why for doing YouTube. Because your why is going to determine how far you go. The stats say most people quit by the time they drop their 20th video. And what I say to that is they probably didn't have a strong enough why of being on YouTube in the very first place. You see, you want to be on YouTube because you have a very, very strong why. You see, in my case, for example, I am on this platform because I am a teacher and I love teaching. I love sharing ideas. Most of the things I say on my channel are the same things that I sit with friends and I talk about. I don't feel like it's anything extra. It's just part of who I am. And so it becomes very, very easy. And so the whole idea of burnout cannot feature in my dictionary. No, I love what I'm doing. I come from a family of teachers. We are all educators in some capacity. And so teaching is a part of me. And so that's the point. You want to be passionate about what you're doing. You want to have a wider super season need to just make money. And then the magic happens, which is that because you love what you're doing and you cannot stop doing it, then eventually you attract the right audience, and then money becomes a byproduct for the energy you're putting out there. Now let's go to the third point, which would be consistency. I found out that consistency is one of the key pillars, probably the most important of all the four pillars to succeeding on YouTube, because I found out that YouTube, just like life, is a numbers game. And the algorithm, impartial as it may be, is also programmed to favor data. And what it means simply is that the more content you put out, the greater the likelihood of you finding your right audience and blowing up your channel. I've done a survey of so many channels on YouTube, and what you would realize is that every channel with a couple hundred videos is having a certain degree of success. Posting consistently is the key. And so what it means is that if you had a channel where you woke up every morning and sang a lullaby, eventually you will find your audience. Amidst the approximately 2.5 billion people who use YouTube, you will find your audience, people who are interested in lullabies, and you will experience great success on YouTube. You will know a lot more success than someone who posts one intelligent video once every month or once every 2 weeks talking about quantum physics and atomic bombs and philosophers and ghosts and all that. Because one of the shocking realizations I made is that people are so different. People are so different. You have all sorts of people and all sorts of interests on the YouTube sphere. It doesn't matter what you do, you're going to find your audience. And I'm beginning to think that there is no such thing as an intelligent video. No. I got friends who only go to YouTube to listen to music. I got friends who only go to YouTube to watch comedy. I got those who are interested in my kind of content, but I also got those who don't give a damn. And so the key is to be consistent. And if you're consistent, somehow you're going to make it. And now to the last point, make your production process very, very easy. And that's one of the things I've decided to do consciously as well. So that you can easily record a video and put it out there. And this, of course, is in line with the third point we just talked about, which is that of consistency. Because if you can make your production process easy enough, then you would naturally become consistent, because you would find making videos a lot easier. So let me just give you an example using myself so you can get a better picture of what I'm saying. In my case, I've made quite a good number of changes to how I produce videos, which I believe is going to cut down my production load by about 80%. It's going to make my production a lot easier. So here are some changes I made. First, all my videos used to be shot in 4K, and that meant very heavy data to deal with. I have now transitioned to 1080p. Shooting in 4K, editing in 4K could be very laborious and time consuming. So I've now dropped that. Also, I purchased this mic, a very good mic with a boom arm that is static. And what it means is that I can just connect it to the camera, turn it on, and start speaking. I don't need to try to hide a lapel mic underneath my clothes every so often. No, I just need to press a button and I'm good to go. Also, I have now dedicated the space as a little bit of my working studio, and everything is set. I got the lights in place. I got the tripod and the camera in place. I got everything in place, which means when I'm inspired for a video, it takes me less than a minute to press a button. Everything comes on and I'm ready to record. Whereas in the past, every new production meant a new setup, which of course takes a toll on the entire video making process. Also, I've decided to give up perfectionism. I've decided to be less perfect in the way I create my videos. So I'm the one person who in the past would do a re-recording of a segment if I realized there was an error. Everything had to be perfect. Or I would hold back uploading a video on YouTube if I notice any glitch after rendering or exporting, depending on what software you're using. You see, but I've since given that up. I've come to the realization that in order to be consistent and to maintain a certain frequency, we can deal with minute errors. And finally, I'll be keeping my editing process very, very easy and basic. Well, it's always been very basic, but I think I'm going to make it a lot more basic in that going forward, I wouldn't be spending 5 minutes struggling to cut out a specific frame, which at the end of the day makes little or no difference, by the way. Because one of the things I found is that people do not even pay attention to those very, very minute details. They want to get the message you're out the passing. Your message is the most important thing. Of course, you want to give people some degree of quality. I'm not saying you put out trash out there. No. Give people what is worth your time. Give people some degree of quality. But also in giving them that, make room for the possibility of always giving them that. And so those are the 4 pillars I think will grow any channel. If you're sitting on the fence, jump in. Together we can make it.